Hey gorgeous people, hope you are having a great start to your Friday, and I am really excited to chat about today's topic because I think it's a big one that can really trip people up at times. I know for myself it's something that I've personally been doing a lot of inner work around as well, and is really important for so many reasons. If you've ever struggled with self-worth, or if you felt obliged, obligated, need to, have to, should with anybody, I can promise you will want to jump in and perhaps watch a little bit of this and find out a little bit more about what number one, what creates it, and number two, how to actually set yourself free from this as well. So good morning, Di, lovely to have you on. Hey Chris, lovely to have you on as well. So these are really important factors to kind of take into consideration. Is any time that we feel that we need somebody's love, we need somebody's approval, we need something from somebody, now we've actually distanced ourselves from that and we've separated ourselves from that. And what actually happens, and this is something that I came across recently, and this is why I put the warning on there, simply because it was highly triggering for myself. And so obviously just wanting to let people know that as well, that it could really trigger some deeper stuff within you. So it's really important obviously to be aware of that and to watch this at an appropriate time, not just before you're about to walk into work or something like that as well. So I just always like to kind of put those things out there. Hey Jen, lovely to have you on. Hey Denise, lovely to have you on as well. So a lot of what kind of happens in these situations, like I said, when we're needing love, when we need approval, or we believe that we need somebody's love or somebody's approval, as a child, quite often when we've been raised in certain circumstances, or a lot of parents have actually been parented by their parents in a way that was elicited a lot of shame. And I think that's like Brene Brown is obviously doing a lot of work in this particular area at the moment. She's really helping people understand the difference between living a life of shame and perfectionism and needing to always get it right, needing everybody's approval, needing to be the people pleaser, needing to be the good girl, like all of those things. And of course that can play out for men as well, not just being the good girl, but also being the good boy, or following the rules, or getting it right, or all of those things. And what actually happens is when we're growing up, if we don't feel safe or accepted for who we are as a person, and this could be as simple as walking into a room, mum or dad is stressed, we're in a great mood, we're happy, skipping, joyful, and mum or dad yells at us, and suddenly we've lost love, we've lost approval, and sometimes being shamed also, just depending on, and sometimes just even the loss of approval can make us feel that we're really bad or really wrong. Now, to distinguish the difference between guilt and shame, and many of you may already know this, but it's always just a good one to refresh. Hey Diana, great to have you on as well too, honey. And Tara, lovely to see you on here too, Del. A great way to distinguish this is guilt is I did something wrong. Shame is I am wrong. And this is where, like, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, I hate myself, like a lot of these, or that mean girl talk, or that, maybe you've got a mean boy in your mind as well, that really, like, the inner critic is created in order to try and protect us, but it's actually like a self-sabotage against ourselves. But the survival mechanism is actually keep safe, keep the same as everybody else, don't rock the boat, don't step outside the lines, don't be too loud, too emotional, too upset, too this, too that, too anything, if that triggers a sense of shame in your parent. Now, if the parent has also been raised from a similar situation, and this is where this like self-hate kind of thing comes in, is we have to abandon or disown that aspect of self that the parent is shaming or is not liking. So if we're being too loud or too playful or too silly or too happy or too emotional or too teary or too much of a sulk or like any of those things, then that's where we will actually fracture ourselves. And I spoke a little bit about this in the video last week, topic on Saturday, but we will actually fracture ourselves. We actually disown that aspect of self, and then we cut ourselves off from that, and then we have to hate that part of ourself in order to belong and fit in and align our energies with our parents, or to be the same as our parents, in order to stay safe and secure in that particular relationship. And so often we will grow up in life where we've disowned these aspects of self, or we've disowned, the sensitive part of ourself, or we've disowned that loud part of ourself, or we've disowned the part of us that was singing, or that was dancing, or that was like any aspect of you that has felt shamed by somebody else. And remember, shame is a projection. So when somebody else is shaming you, it's because they feel ashamed of that aspect of their self, because they've been shamed as well. So this is not a blame and shame game. That's actually how people escape shame, is by projecting blame and shame onto somebody else. So when a parent, and so this is really, really important in parent-child relationships. I've certainly observed this in myself with my kids, and certainly will be having greater conversations with them about this as well, because I can see how those aspects of myself, I projected some of that onto them when I was a lot more unconscious, sometimes probably still do at times, and it's certainly not anything to do with the loving intent that's behind us as parents. It's unconscious a lot of the time when this stuff comes up. If you are triggered by your child, or there's something that bothers you greatly about your child, I can promise you, if it's a behavior or a way that they are, or if they're too much of this or too much of that, I know for me, like, I was highly triggered by if they were too lazy, or if they were too outspoken or too emotional, like all of those things. Again, like for me, that was a huge trigger in which I projected my own shame upon them around that. And it's more of a feeling, and for somebody that is highly sensitive as well, it will be much more detrimental, as opposed to somebody that's not quite so sensitive and they're just like, oh yeah, mum's just in a bad mood, or dad's just in a bad mood. Whereas when somebody's highly sensitive, it penetrates very deeply into the psyche and into the nervous system, and our the vagus nerve is generally what's kind of triggering like a lot of that stuff. Now later on in relationships, we tend to attract those that have the equal and opposite wound within us. So if somebody else has been shamed, but for the opposite thing, now what actually happens is we're both triggering each other's shame in relationship to other. And this is a great, amazing, incredible opportunity to heal this wound if both of you bring the conscious light. If neither of you are conscious or consciously aware around what's happening, this will be exacerbated into a greater wound and be very, very painful, where when that topic comes up, so obviously money can be a big one, because people have experienced a lot of shame around money, about having too much or not having enough. There's a body image is another big one, so people can experience shame, and I was certainly in one of those relationships at one point where I had a lot of shame around my body, and until I did the inner work and cleared that up, I'd actually attracted a partner in the past that would literally look me up and down when I arrived at his house. We didn't live in the same town, and he would notice whether I put on half a kilo or lost a half a kilo. Like, he had obviously been super shamed around his body image as well, and so therefore it was super critical of me holding that standard. So therefore there was almost like this projection of shame upon me, that unless I was that, then I was unlovable or unworthy of love. And so this is how all these mechanisms really do play out. Now, how to set yourself free from this, because this is really important, guys. Obviously, like, if you're noticing this stuff come up, it's number one, super freaking painful, plus it doesn't result in having great relationships. It will always trip you up and get you triggered. It doesn't matter who comes towards you with that aspect that you've disowned, you will be triggered 100% in them. So and a great example of this, just like at a base level, hey Franca, great to have you on. Hey Kate, hey Erica, hey Em, hey Kate, lovely to see you guys on here, and hey Louisa, lovely to see you on here too, and Jerry. Now, a great example of this is if you were ever shamed for having bad manners, or not saying please or thank you as a kid. So it wasn't just like, oh babe, like, it's really nice if you can use your manners. If it was like, how dare you be so rude, or like, and obviously I'm exacerbating, but if you've ever been shamed for not saying please or thank you, or having bad manners, or being rude, then of course, if somebody's rude to you, you will want to shame them back. You'll be like, oh, how dare they speak like that? That's so rude. Like, and that's where our judgments come from, guys. Like, it's like black and white rules simply because how we've been raised. And this is what keeps us trapped in this ego survival mind cycle. It keeps us never feeling really free. And it's kind of like, you know, people have said to me, no, but you know, like, we should have good manners. Yeah, we can choose to have really good manners and choose to express that part of ourselves. But when we make it a black or white rule, at times, you know, if a predator is, you know, or somebody that's threatening you, you know what, say, please don't hurt me. Like, you know, can you please step aside? Like let's be real. And I mean, I'm being playful and facetious, obviously, because I'm wanting to highlight sometimes it's really appropriate to actually elicit anger or to feel some of those emotions. But if you've been shamed, and so in your mind it's a black and white rule that I can't be this and I can't be that. So for me, you know, I was really triggered by people that were lazy. Now that stopped me, that prevented me from taking rest, from taking care of myself, because anytime I stopped, in my mind, that was a black and white rule. I was being lazy and therefore unlovable and unworthy. So, and this is, you know, like if you've been raised in a highly successful family, or, you know, mum or dad, you've seen them working really, really hard. And, you know, it's not to say that working hard is a bad thing either or anything else. It's just, let's bring more conscious light to the choices that you're actually making rather than running these patterns really, really unconsciously. And particularly around if you are being lazy or having a rest, like let's call it something a little bit more resourceful, but if you are having a rest or you're taking some time out or you're just chilling, like being able to do that without beating the crap out of yourself is something that's really valuable, right? And so many people that I speak to go, oh, well, I can't do that because I feel guilty, or I feel ashamed, or I feel, you know, most people don't generally use shame, but like I feel like guilt and shame are kind of pretty heavily entwined in that either what I'm doing is wrong or I am wrong. I am bad. I'm unlovable when I'm doing this thing. And it doesn't allow us true freedom and true choice to show up as our natural real self and to listen to our inner guidance. It is our survival ego mind's programs of who we believe that we need to be, who we should be, what we must do, and it will keep you obligated in relationship to others. And it feels like crap to give from that space, because if I have to do this, if I need to do this in order to be loved, or if I need to, then we resent the person and we feel like a victim of circumstance and a victim of the world, and it will always, always, always keep us stuck and in really unhealthy situations. So the next part of this, and so it's kind of like playing around with this on my morning walk this morning, and I was intuitively guided to go for my walk before I did the video simply for this reason, because this is kind of what came up. Good morning, Sue, great to have you on. Hey Jen, lovely to have you on, and beautiful Sandra and Britt, lovely to see you guys on here. So this is really important as well from that aspect of coming back to self in appreciating or noticing then the differences that show up. So what can you appreciate that is different rather than trying to be the same as? Because this is really what creates a lot of that self-hatred as the coping mechanism, where we disown an aspect of self rather than embracing that part of ourself, cherishing and loving that we are different, or that we are unique, or that we are individual in that aspect. So when you give yourself permission to notice or appreciate what you like, love, or appreciate in others that's different, then you can kind of, like, it might be, I love that they can really relax, I love that they can really chill, I love that they can take time out for themselves. Could be all of those things. And so then you can appreciate that difference, and then we're actually expanding now rather than feeling contracted or feeling like there's all these black and white rules of how we need to be or what we need to be doing. Now the other thing which I've shared for a long time is doing the Byron Katie work. So if there's I need to, I have to, or I should coming up anywhere for you, or I can't be, or I shouldn't be, then again, that's a black and white rule that we've started to create, or that we've created, or that's been there for a very, very long time. And so by questioning that belief or that thought, a belief is only a thought that you've had so many times that now you've actually believed it as your truth. When we believe something to be true, we look for the evidence to support that in the world, and we go, okay, yeah, this is, and it's just like wearing a pair of glasses. It's like wearing a blue pair of glasses, that if you wore those blue, oh my God, why am I having trouble with that? if you wore that blue pair of glasses all the time, pretty soon you'd actually forget that you had that particular filter on. You'd just see everything as blue, right? And so this is what our beliefs actually do. They're like popping on a pair of glasses, and that's then how we see from that particular perspective about how the world is, or what the world is. And other people go, no, that's not true for me. And you'll be like, no, but you don't understand. And then we'll have all these reasons to justify and prove as evidence as to why that belief is actually true. Like if the world is a difficult place, or the world is a scary place, or the world is a horrible, like you will look for the evidence to support that. If you believe that life is a dance, or life is an adventure, or life is joyous, you will look for the evidence to support that. And often, like we've taken these beliefs in from 0 to 7 very unconsciously. We haven't got an analytical mind. It doesn't develop until about 8 or 9 years old, where we can start to reject, or at least analyze thoughts and go, hang on a second, does that feel right for me, or is that make sense for me? We just take it all on board, and particularly from somebody that we perceive as an authority, whether that's parents, teachers, or other people in our life, other adult people in our life when we're a child. We take their word as gospel. And, often we don't even stop to question that stuff until later on something's playing out in our life that's actually not working well for us. And we're trying to figure out what is actually going on here. Oh, it's because I believe this thing. Okay, now if I didn't believe that thought, how would I feel? So that's where the Byron Katie work will always set you free. And the second that we introduce, I need their love, I need their approval. Now you've lost total control of your life. It will always leave you feeling powerless. It will always leave you feeling out of control, and it creates like a kind of an addictive pattern in relationships as well, where we feel like we can't be ourselves, because to be yourself, if you lose their love or approval, that is going to feel very threatening for your system. And it's been something I've been working on within a deeply entrenched pattern in myself for a long time, where I notice in certain circumstances I drop my most authentic self, and it's like I become this 3-year-old self again, and it's like I'm submissive, and I'm like trying to like the pleaser and the yes girl and all this stuff, and it's just like, who is this? And it's my 3-year-old self, because she felt so scared in not having approval, or felt really insecure as a young child in losing her mum's approval, or losing her dad's approval. Generally for me it was with mum, and I know that I was super sensitive and also super emotional as a child, so that would have been highly triggering for my mum. And quite often as parents we can experience parenting shame in feeling that we're bad, or we're wrong, or we're failing our kids in some way if our kids aren't happy. And you can see how this pings off, right? So both people are now feeling a sense of shame, and because both people are like needing the other's approval, and we just kind of can't get there from there. And this can play out in intimate relationships as well. So this is the way to really set yourself free, is I need their love and approval. How do I feel when I believe that thought? Now, some of you might be going, well, it's true. I do need their love and approval. Again, it's a choice. You can choose to experience their love, and you can choose a bit, whilst ever you believe it's a black and white rule that I absolutely cannot survive, and I'm using strong words here, obviously, I cannot survive without their love and approval, or I'm threatened, or I lose my sense of security, or I lose, lose my life as it is if I don't have their love and approval, then that's going to feel really threatening to your system, and it will not allow you to make those clear choices that to have those personal boundaries for yourself in discerning, is this okay for me or is this not? Because whilst ever you're hooked into the idea that you need their love and approval, you're going to be guided by what they're saying and what they need, and it will always result in resentment, anger, frustration, unhappiness, because you're not taking time to get clear on who you are and what it is that's right for you. And there's no right or wrong with any of this, and Teal Swan does this beautiful video on this just around around incompatibility in relationships as well, because sometimes what can happen is that we believe that the other person's being unloving if they don't want to meet our needs. No, chances are that and sometimes that is the case, that they're, but often it's because like two people don't get into a relationship if they don't like or love each other or appreciate something in each other first. Generally speaking, obviously there's there's the anomaly in every situation, but generally speaking, two people get into a relationship because they like, love, or appreciate each other. But where this happens is this enmeshment stuff starts to play out, where they feel like, oh, well, I need to be this and I need to do what they're saying because otherwise they get cranky at me or they get upset with me, and then the other person's trying to do the same. Well, I did that for you, so now you need to do this for me. And it's a transactional relationship, and it will never result in a happy relationship. So this is where, like, really, really, really important. Hey, Marguerite, lovely to have you on, darling. Hey, Rod. Hey, Bernie. Lovely to see you. Hey, Kylie. Lovely to have you on here too. So it's this transactional relationship where it's like, I need you to do that for me, and you need to do, this for me on this other side as well. So like both people are kind of, everybody's enmeshed. Nobody's actually really clear and responsible for what their own particular needs are. Now, if say one person gets into a relationship, and just say like it's a woman, and she's like really wanting to have this beautiful family, she's looking for a family man, and really excited about living this amazing, joyous, like co-creative life with this wonderful partner and everything else. And she meets this fantastic guy, loves the guy, thinks he's wonderful, and yet underneath the guy's been shamed for perhaps wanting to live a life of singledom or freedom, or maybe all of his mates or everyone else around him has gone, oh, it's time to get married, it's time to settle down, it's time to have kids. So he's feeling this pressure of, I have to be that. So he kind of is a little inauthentic, and we can all do this. Like I'm just using this as an example. I'm certainly not picking on guys in this respect. I think women do this as well, absolutely, in various ways. And a lot of the time it's like, yeah, I'm being this people pleaser, or I'm saying that this is totally fine and this is totally okay, and yes, that's no worries, and underneath we're like, that's not what I want. But we're not communicating effectively because we've been shamed in the past for some of these things that we've been made wrong within self. So we push that away, we disown that, and now we're actually not being truthful and authentic with who we actually really are. So the guy that then feels like he needs to be this family man, because so it's like walking into, and I love Teal's analogy around this, it's like wanting to buy the family combi van, where it's got like a 6-seater and 8-seater van, fit all the family in and everything else. So she thinks she's buying that model, or she thinks that she's got that model of man. Next minute it turns out 2 years, 5 years, 10 years later, no, he's actually the sports car, and he just wants to like be jet setting around like he's the sports model. And then she's like angry and resentful. She feels like she's been duped. He feels like he's been duped because he's ended up disappointing everybody. And now he's feeling this sense of shame as well, because he really didn't want a family and he really didn't want to be the family man. He just wanted to have some fun and enjoy his life, which none of this is bad or wrong, guys. Like, this is the point that I'm trying to make. It's just like when we've been shamed for those particular aspects, we will make it wrong in ourselves and we disown those parts, and then we no longer feel authentic, and that's where we feel limited in our freedom. So like I said, a couple of different ways of moving through this as well is let go of the need for love and approval from others. It will always, always, always trip you up. It will keep you feeling resentful. It will keep you feeling neglected, abandoned, all those things. You must come back to loving and approving of yourself first and foremost. And then when, and this is like, I love this statement. I've been saying this statement to myself for a long time. When I love me, I set everyone free. Because when I'm loving me, I'm doing what's right for me, which will always be in everybody else's best interest long term. If I'm saying, oh, no, that's, I can't do that, or I have to, long term, that is going to build anger, that's going to build resentment in me. I'm not going to want to be around that person. It's not going to serve that relationship. Now, chances are, if there's an incompatibility, then, so this goes back to what I was saying before, where I'm actually wanting something different and there's a needs conflict, now it's not about whether I love the person or I don't love the person. It's like, is this actually really serving us, or am I a round peg trying to fit into a square hole here? And so this takes a huge degree of truthfulness. It takes a huge degree of honesty with ourselves of what actually is really okay for me. What am I truly wanting to experience, either in intimate relationship or in life? What are my values? What am I aligned to? And is this person like really compatible with that, or does my relationship with them need to change in some way, shape or form? And that's not to say that you don't love them anymore or you don't care about them, but perhaps, you know, in terms of if that's like a life partner, or if that's in another type of relationship, maybe that needs to be different in some way where it can resume or come back to being a healthy relationship. And sometimes that's actually not having anything to do with that person. We can still love that person from afar, and have compassion for them, but you don't need to be involved in their life in that sense. And in that sense, now you're truly free. You're truly free to live life as you're wanting to. You're no longer bound by the ties of needing somebody or something from somebody that keeps you attached to that particular person, but in a toxic and unhealthy way that doesn't allow you pure freedom to just be yourself. So I truly hope that's been served you guys. Brought some new awarenesses out perhaps, and if you're wanting to find out more, definitely check out Teal Swan's video, what is it now? Self-hate, the most dangerous coping mechanism there is. That was the one that I watched, that I spoke about at the start, that was highly triggering for me. I did cry my eyes out when I first watched it, but I feel so joyous now as well, because I really understand at a deeper level what was actually kind of playing out. None of it had malicious intent behind it in any of the, you know, like our parents come in with a very loving intent. Again, obviously there can be different situations around that where that may not be the case, but generally, it's really, really important to know that, you know, whatever somebody else is going through, whatever we feel that they're projecting onto us, they're coming from a place of absolute pain, because if they fully love themselves, there's no way that they could be responding in that way. And so bringing love and compassion and understanding will not only help the situation, help your feelings towards them, which always feels better obviously for ourselves, but also allows you to have greater self-love and compassion for self when you're moving through some of those emotions of rage or anger or frustration or unhappiness, like any of those things. So self-compassion and self-love first and foremost for self, and then we can bring that to others as well. And I'll just read Kyle's question here. So it's okay to not have to follow the norm of falling in love. Oh, absolutely. It's like, that's all personal preference, hun. There are no rules in life. The only rules that we have are the ones that we've taken on unconsciously from other people, taken on unconsciously from society. There's no right or wrong. You know, my general guise around it all is, as long as it's not obviously harmful to another, and this is where this needs conflict can come up, but it's always responsibility to self. Because that, obviously, like if it feels like it's harmful to another, if another person believes that they need to marry you, or they need, you know, that's their stuff, and that's where that needs conflict comes up. If it doesn't feel right for you, you'll always disserve that person by going, oh, I have to get married, or I have to do this, or I have to be this. But no, you get to live life in a way that feels really right for you. And the more that you're aligned to your own authentic truth, and let go of the guilt and the shame and everything else that can be attached to some of those things where we've disowned those aspects of self, you know, if you're wanting to be single for the rest of your life, you know, go for it. I would definitely like do a deep dive around why you're feeling that way, or maybe why you want that, to know that it is your authentic truth, because I do believe as humans, like we're designed to be connected. You know, like every part of our anatomy kind of like shares, you know, and even the vagus nerve is highly connected with sensing other people's energy systems and everything else. So I truly believe that we have a great opportunity in life to develop wonderful relationships. And again, if we're you know, and I'm certainly not saying that you're wanting to be single or anything, but if you don't want to get married, you know, there's nothing to say you have to. There's no rule book around that. There's no rule book around anything. Like I say to my girls, they didn't come with a manual, but they also didn't come with a rule book either. So they get to live life in a way way that feels truly joyous for them. And I think that's when we know that we're on the right path, is when we're following our bliss in doing what is 100% right for us. Other people may or may not agree with that. And again, they're coming from their perspective of potentially what they've been shamed around, or what they've been told is right or wrong, or, you know, just what's right for them. But the more that we're our unique individual self, and the more that we shine into that, it leads to greater expansion in the universe. It leads to greater learning and greater perspectives. If you think about it, if the cavemen had been happy living their life exactly the way that they were, and they believed that that was all that they could ever have, we would still be cavemen. We would not be living this incredible and extraordinary life where we can literally fly across the world in like 20 hours, 24 hours. Like, you know, we live in such an extraordinary time at the moment. So being able to truly embrace that, embrace our unique individual self, and bring any parts of you that you've been shaming, or that you've made wrong, or that you feel like others have made wrong, you can really release that, set yourself free, and step into greater and greater freedom as well. So Byron Katie work, guys, if there's any I need to, I should, I have to, I must, or I need somebody's love and approval, or they should love and approve of me, you know, let them, like, set them free from that, and then they can choose to love you as it feels right for them. It's so gorgeous on so many levels. When you set you free, you set everybody else free. And then the other aspect of that is starting to really notice and appreciate the differences, not the sameness. We're pretty good as a society of going, oh, I really like you because you're like so similar to me. Oh, you like the same stuff as I do. Oh, I really like you. Let's get like really open around appreciating what do you like, love, or appreciate about somebody that is unique, that is different to you. Because in doing so, now you're allowing greater appreciation for the differences in yourself. You're no longer going to feel like you need to be fully aligned in terms of like be the same as somebody else in order to be liked, loved, or get approval from them, because you'll be loving you, and you set yourself free in the moment that you choose to do that for you. So have an amazing day, guys. So much love and gratitude to you all, and I truly hope that that has served on some level, or, you know, maybe a little light bulb moment. If it has, please like, love, or share that with somebody that you really care about, and have a magnificent rest of your day. Loads of love to you. Bye.